What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line of the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we are here today with another episode of the Yesterday's Enterprise build series and the 1701-C. Oh, this has been a long time coming. Now, I know we've done some assembly here. This one looks like it's together, but really, if you say the wrong thing to it, like you're ugly, it comes apart, kind of. No, it comes apart. I actually didn't secure that in there. I'm like, wait, did I actually glue that in? That was stupid. We need to go through and create all of our connections today and basically get our nacelles mated up to our engineering section, get our impulse engine assembly put in place, and then get it lit up, and then run the power up and get everything cinched up. So this is going to be a fairly important and a big episode today, my friends. The first major stage of assembly has begun as we start racing towards the end of this model series. And man, I gotta say, I wasn't expecting this one to come up so quick, but guess what? Here we are. Focus on a model for a little while, and guess what? You finish it. It's amazing. So, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and basically just start building. Obviously, I'm incorporating, the live intro, live outro, and then build in the middle with the narration. So, I'm just going to go ahead and start building. And, I hope you guys enjoy what I'm about to do, because we'll see how this turns out, because I have something up here in the old brain. I'm pointing at my face. I have something up here that I've got, planned and laid out for this, but we'll see if this actually is going to work out. So, let's go ahead and get to building, shall we? Alright, so as we get going, here's where my first regret happens. I only have a couple in this episode, and the first one comes from the last episode, where I decide to give myself an extraordinarily short end to my main power connection. Now, I didn't know what this barrel plug was going to do. I certainly didn't know, what I was doing here. I'm trying to desperately get in there with Steve, my wire clippers, and or wire cutters, so to say. And I'm trying to get in there, and I say I got that. I got possibly maybe an 1/8 quarter inch, maybe, of wire exposed. And really, to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of wire available for me to even use when fully exposed. It was kind of crazy. I don't know where I got this barrel plug from, to be honest. I really don't know. I may have... It was definitely not something that I bought recently with all my model stuff. And, I have no idea where it all came from. It was one of those things where, I probably found it in a pile of, I've got a whole box full of wires and stuff like that. And it was probably an old power connection from something or somewhere along the way. But, it just kind of wound up being one of those things where I thought that this was going to work, and I was able to, get the first part connected. I was able to get the negative wire connected here. I'm doing my soldering. I am also trying to learn how to solder properly. And it's important to me. I need to get, for the perfect grade Falcon, I need to use, I have the Voodoo FX lighting kit for the MPC 72nd scale Falcon, but I'm going to be turning around and using that for the perfect grade Falcon for our group build. And in order to do so, I need to actually learn how to solder. And so I'm trying to employ proper soldering techniques. I've picked up a proper soldering gun setup. I'm able to digitally control my temperature and all of those things. It's in the process of this where I'm really figuring out that this wasn't gonna work. It wasn't gonna work. Even I'm trying to pretend my wires here so it makes for easier connections. I literally just did not give myself enough lead wire at the end of this. And in trying to solder everything together, I'm realizing that it's just not working. Like, it's not working. So I go ahead and use these giant Lincoln log fingers and go ahead and separate it off. I thought that I can continue to use these wires, but what I decided to do was basically create a whole new wiring harness to go in using the wires that I use for the rest of this model. The copper inside the wire with the barrel plug, it just was not working properly. And, well, not working properly. Like, I was able to power everything up just fine. But the issue was that I wasn't able to, feel like wasn't confident in the amount of wires that were provided inside the barrel plug to properly connect without shorting out at some point down the line. And so I wound up creating a whole new connection. As you can see there on the helping hands, I've got my main power wire all hooked up. And what I'm doing here, after getting my main soldering done, getting some leads connected up to the nacelle assemblies, I go ahead and start creating the main power connection. Now, for this, I had to really think about how I was going to approach it. Do I try to open a middle part of the line and splice in at different points, or do I go ahead and basically create all of my connections at the end of one of the lines and then just solder that all up and basically cover it with some shrink wrap? And that's what I decided to do. And so I gave myself about an inch at the end of each one of my connections, and basically made it so that I have a long point with exposed wire that I can connect each one of our points to. So that's going to be, the nacelles are connected by default. And then for that, we'll also need to connect, our main power line going down, and then we need to connect our main power line going up to the saucer section, and then we also need to create our small power connections for both the deflectors and for the impulse engine, which we're going to be creating here, or the impulse engine light, which we're going to be creating here in just a little bit. And so it was very simple. I left myself, like I said, at the end of the main power line, I left myself a 1-inch connection and then connected up the nacelles to that. And then it was just a matter of getting 2 of our smaller gauge wires. I basically used 22 gauge wire to create our main power connections, and then I used the 28 gauge, I believe, or maybe the 30 gauge. I'm not quite sure what the gauge is at this point. But the smaller gauge wire for the smaller connections coming off of the main power line. So it wound up working out really, really well. And for this, I needed to basically, once again, just create 2 power connections, one for each of the power that we need. And so what I did was very simply take the 2 leads that were the smaller leads, and I crimped them together, as you can see here. And, like I said, very rudimentary. I'm learning how to do electronics. I'm sure that there are better ways of doing things. And please, if you guys have any tips, please let me know. It's working. I think my soldering skills are the thing that I really need to focus on the most. If there's anything that I could say that I need to work on the most, it's going to be my soldering skills. But if there's better ways of doing these connections, obviously I don't have room for T-taps and stuff like that. It's a very small model on the inside, really, when you break it down. And so, just this method has worked for me in the past. And, it seems like I have a signature way of doing my lighting so far. Once again, as I'm figuring out how to do things, I'm just creating my own ways and ways that work for me. And I've noticed a pattern. I've watched other people light their models and they do things completely different. And so I'll incorporate things as I go along. But if you guys do have any tips or tricks, obviously, please leave them down below, because I'm very curious if there's better ways of approaching a main power line. Obviously, in the future, with other models like the Perfect Grade Falcon, for instance, and other Star Trek models and Star Wars models I'm building in the future, the lighting is going to be much more complex and run through, like Arduinos and different tenant control boards and what have you. Now, after we get both sides soldered up with the, basically what we've done here is we've connected both of the negatives and the positives for the smaller connections, and we ran our main power connection up to the top for the saucer. Our wiring harness is complete. This took a while. I was kind of surprised when I was editing down all of this content for this specific part of the video. Like usually the thing that I found that is different, like I'm sure that this would have been probably 2 or 3 episodes had I done it the previous way. This was like 2 hours worth of work up to this point, trying to figure out, how to get the wires all, like how the harness was going to be designed and built. And really, I just kind of wound up doing on the fly. And it worked, once again, I'm learning and figuring things out. And so, and I gotta say, I didn't show it here because I was really embarrassed about this this particular connection. The negative wires went together really well. I was able to get them soldered together really, really nicely. And I'm trying to employ proper techniques. So heat the wire up, use flux, and then put your solder over the top. But I don't know. I need to figure this all out. So if you guys have any tips for soldering, please let me know down below as well. But this particular this particular connection, the solder was just god awful, and I was very glad to take the connection point and cover it with some of our shrink wrap because my god, it was bad. So now it's just a matter of getting to the point of basically fitting everything into place. I needed to figure out how the wire is kind of laid out. As you can see here, I'm positioning the lower main power connection, for like facing it down, and then our main power to the saucer section going up. Now, unfortunately, in the middle of recording the previous segment that we never actually got to see, in installing the impulse engine, I lost power for a minute. I don't know. It was weird. And unfortunately, like the recording died right in the middle of it, and so I wasn't able to get it back. But it was a very simple process. Just created the LED. I had recorded this the day before, and I let the LED run for a day just to make sure that it was all good to go and broken in. So I always run all my LEDs for 24 hours before I fully install them to make sure that everything is all good to go and that they're not going to burn out at some point. So I'm just kind of fitting the impulse engine cover, getting it ready to go. In between takes here, I paint the back black. All right, so it's time. We're going to start assembling the main part of the model. Now, I have a couple of regrets here. I said that there were some regrets that I had, and what I didn't do is, once I got everything connected in, and you guys will see here in just a few minutes, once I got everything connected in, it was, I guess the best way of putting it is going to be, of course, my device is going to say something right in the middle of this. The most difficult part was like getting everything glued together. That's the thing that I'm probably still struggling on. I've done a lot of paint work now. I'm much more comfortable with painting my models. I have my techniques for all of that are really, really good at this point. Like having to restart has forced me to focus on getting, painting done properly. The fact that this model still looks great with the paint that's on it with the old crappy system that I had still blows my mind. So, but the regret that I have here is specifically with gluing, and to finish the thought is, I have not been focusing enough on assembling my models. I'm finding that, as much as I like to paint my models beforehand, in some instances it's warranted, like especially like in sub-assemblies. But I'm leaning more towards building my models first and then painting them later. As you know, I'm worried about glue getting onto my paint, And so that's what happened here, like right now, and I'll get to that here in a second. But, here I'm figuring out how to get the wire bundle in because I'm ready to assemble the engineering section or the star drive section. And how am I going to get the wires inside and push the nacelles in and get the engineering section like cinched in at the same time? I hadn't really thought that through. Now, as I'm fishing out all my wires, it's funny as watching this, it's kind of amazing. The little like assembly that I did create actually turned out pretty good. I probably gave myself too much wire at certain points, and then where I definitely didn't do, and where my second regret kind of came into play, is coming up here in a second. I didn't leave myself enough room on the back end, and so there was definitely room for me to collapse the wires in on itself, but it's right here, specifically when I make my decision to run the power wires up to the saucer section and glue them in place while holding them taut just like this. This basically stopped any, what's the best way of putting it? This basically forced the wires to be sitting in one position, and when I glued them in place with super glue, I didn't give myself any sort of lead on there. So the amount of space that I have sitting right there at the tail end of the engineering section where the shuttle bay is all I got to try to wrap that around, and this is what prevented me from being able to glue this model properly. Now, in the end, I was able to make it work, as you guys will see here in a moment, but it's forced me to really think about how I'm going to wire my models going forward, the process for building them. I'm going to be taking a complete different approach to building my models, especially for lighting. So, here we have got the power wires run for the saucer section. We're not going to be putting too much power up to the top. We're only going to be using a couple things up there. Once again, like I said, as I had not planned to light this model in the first place, there's a lot of prep work that I should have done in the very beginning had we done so. So it's going to be a very simple and easy light mod for the saucer section. We'll come up to that in the next episode. But now it's time to basically route my wires down towards the main power connection. And what I have done is I've ordered, and I can't think of the diameter rod right now, but it's the appropriate size diameter. I'm going to be ordering a custom base for this from Cosmic Scale Models. It's going to take a little while to get here. I'll be using the stock base as much as possible. But I got the custom rod that's hollow that fits into the stock base, and then the base from Cosmic Scale Models as well has the same size. So, it's going to be a minute before it's fully on its base and all of that. But here I do have the main power running down, and like I said, it was important for me. I switched out, like I said, the main barrel connector that I had put in place, and it was important for me to do so. One, because the wire count was good, and two, it's a much more flexible wire. Whether I'm going to regret that or not, we'll see. I got an idea for how I'm going to pull that through if I need to, because that wire is pretty soft. Now here, very simply, I am basically twist joining. I've tried to do the butt joining of where you fray the wires out of the when you're trying to solder them together, fray them, put them together, and then twist them. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm going to be practicing onto some wire sections that I have left over from some things and seeing how it goes. But here I'm just twisting my wires, the positives and negatives for both the impulse engine and the deflector dish, and getting them put into place and ready to be soldered. I've already gone through every single one of my connections. I did remember to use shrink wrap through each one of my connections. Want to make sure that it's not going to be exposed and touching anything, and I want to be making sure that the wire connectors are, sealed in for all time, so to say. Now, like I say at the end of the outro for this video, I'm not planning on having this model lit all the time. But you know, when it does need to be lit, it's gonna light, and I anticipate it continuing to light for the life of this model. So it's one of my it's gonna be my second Starfleet ship fully built on my channel. And I want this one to stand the test of time. And so I did take time to make sure that all of my LEDs are broken in, like I said. And I'm doing a very careful job of testing and making sure that my lights are lighting up every step of the way. I do show a little bit of that here, but in between each step, I am going through and testing all of my connections and making sure that all of them are set, and that you know, before I seal up the model for the final time, you know, that everything is put properly into place. And so, you know, it's the twist connection works. I really am trying to focus on doing a good job of twisting my wires and then getting them soldered into place. You know, and as we come up to lighting here for the first time on this video, you know, it's it's still remarkable, the job that I did on the nacelles. Like, I'm surprised, you know, and I really am. I really am. It turned out really, really good, and I can just see here, like, the impulse engine. Oh yeah, no, I'm pleased. The impulse engine, everything all lights up really nice. But I just kind of keep looking at it going, man, those nacelles turned out so good. All right, so now it's time to figure out what I've done. Get all of our wires all cinching into place, and you know, I'm like very loosely tucking them in. I'd thought about gluing them in. You know, once again, I'm just testing after cinching everything in. I am testing my wires. I do this almost religiously. It's like spam saving in a video game. You know, I'm like constantly making sure that all of my connections are true and good after every single one of my connections are made. So that's like through soldering and then doing the what do you call it, the shrink wrap over the top. So, you know, it's important that you're checking your connections as you go along. That way you can fix, because when you close everything up, it's done. Now here, this is where I realized my mistake. Everything all went together really nice. The wires all went together, like the connections were perfect. But it was one of those things where, yeah, I, you know, wasn't thinking, and I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? Do I have to snip this and like create new wires, just a little extension? Obviously, you know, a little bit of geometry and a little bit of, oh, yeah, we're good. There it is. But the issue now lies that I got it into place, and I felt like I had such a difficult time doing so. I showed all of my struggle, by the way, but for me, like when I'm recording and doing that, that felt like an eternity trying to get that all put together. And so I decide right here, right now, like in this moment, that I'm going to assemble it. I did not... I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't know what I was thinking. You know, it was one of those things where, you know, if I had really thought it through all the way, I wouldn't have done that. I would have figured out the assembly, like got that glued together somehow, and then basically, you know, attached it into there. Now, not saying that it turned out wrong, but as I alluded to earlier, my gluing techniques and skills need some work. And I didn't mess this up, but I made questionable decisions. I really like using super glue for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but it's the immediate bonding nature of the super glue. I don't think I've got the patience. I have carpal tunnel, so holding the model together at various points, you know, with pressure can hurt after a period of time. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, it was... I don't know why I did it this way, but when I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know, this actually looks good. Let's go ahead and do it. And so my techniques for putting the super glue in was basically just kind of run the bead. I figured out how to get the super glue to flow into a crack without getting in on the outside. And once again, like I said, there was no super glue overbleed, anything like that. We didn't have any paint ruining. But when I was editing the video and putting together this little segment, I'm just like, what did you do? Like, I didn't even show it because it would probably make some of you guys go, oh my God, is he about to ruin this model? And the answer to your question is no. Somehow, no. I did it on the nacelles, and I learned my lesson pretty damn quick. But what I do here basically is I just separate the model just a tiny little bit with about that much gap, and then I don't show it, but I basically just run the CA in between each seam, and then just push it together, and it worked. But it had no business working, and I shouldn't be using super glue. And it's like right now I'm thinking, oh, dude, what did you just do? Like, why did you just do that? And I am thankful that, once again, I've gotten lucky with this model a couple times. I've gotten unlucky with this model a couple times. So, one of those things. So we do get it all sealed in. I use a combination of super glue and then the Tamiya Extra Thin. The Extra Thin's got its applications, and it's specifically for holding things down and doing a slow melt into place. I need to start just getting much more comfortable with that. But the Tamiya does have a tendency to melt the paint around the outside of where I'm going, and so that's why I need to incorporate building a little bit differently in the future. I think I'm likely going to build my models first and then do the paint job afterwards, so I can really focus on gluing and sanding and getting our seams right, and that way I'm not having to color match later on and then just deal with the complexities of getting our model painted properly. So, well, all of that's sealed in. Now it's time to get the deflector dish put in place. And I gotta say, once again, I alluded to it in the previous episode, the way that the deflector dish was painted turned out so good, and the frosted glass spray just really makes a huge difference with what you're doing. And just as soon as it went into place, I gotta say, man, it turned out really, really good. And I'm really pleased. This whole assembly, for as janky as it went together, turned out really, really well. And, as we're going to see here in a second, I somehow figure out how to do these things, and I don't know how. Enjoy the outro, my friends. All right, my friends. Well, here we are, and that took a little while to do, if I'm being real. It took a minute to figure out how I was going to get the wiring harness put together, and then how I was going to actually put the whole thing together. But overall, I still got some gluing to do. There's down here, we got to get this all cinched in. There's still some work that I need to do, but we'll take care of that in the next episode. The big thing today was just making sure to get this all connected up, hooked up, get our impulse engine all situated, which worked out really, really well. Yeah, you can see right down into there. We're going to need to do some gluing and clamping and pressing and sealing up. Yeah, you can actually... The beautiful thing about cameras is you can really find light leaks and all that. And so I'll be doing that here, but overall, that turned out really well. We got our nacelles all powered up, and as you can see there, you can kind of see them doing their pulsing thing. Looks like there's gases swirling inside. That's our deflector dish. Let's go ahead and get that off to the side. Let's see how this other camera does for blowing out light. Let's take a look here. That's not too bad. I try to set these up a little bit for some bright lights. Obviously, the LED, they're going to blow out no matter what. But in person, this does look fantastic. Well, that nacelle, that's right, I need to get it secured into place. Forgot about that. And these cobs are a little warm. Oh, we'll see. I don't want to have this thing lit too often or for too long of a period of time, but there it is, my friends. Our engineering section is all lit up, all powered up, and all ready to go. I got our power ready to go for our saucer section, and then we have our main power line going out for 5 volts out. So, there it is. The next episode, we're going to be coming through here and getting all this sealed up, finish getting all this glued into place, and then we're going to start working on getting our saucer section ready for lights, getting it light blocked and all the rest, and we'll be taking a look to see what needs to be done to get this finished up and on our way out the door. So, that's what I got for y'all today, and I just want to say thank you. Let's go ahead and put this over here to this camera there. Point it towards. So there we go. Get your hair parted off to the side, sir. Let's go ahead and get to that. Put off there. Let's sit down on top. There we go. And that's what I got for y'all today. And I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, which I think is pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world wherever you happen to be. And just remember that revenge is a dish best served cold.